Hello everyone and welcome to Final Fantasy II. This is an overview of Final Fantasy II, so basically what that means is that I'm going to be explaining the core mechanics of the game. Now this is the Dawn of Souls edition of Final Fantasy II, which comes with 1 and 2. I'm just going to be going through 2 in this particular instance. This is not the original version of the game, of course. The original was released on the Famicom, only in Japan, never made its way to the West. But eventually, 1 and 2, well, 1 was always out, was released in the West originally, but 2 wasn't. But they both came out on the PlayStation eventually. I'm just going to skip that because that's from Final Fantasy 1 and not relevant. So yes, the original Final Fantasy II was not released over in the West until the PlayStation version, which did mimic the original quite heavily, but did go quite differently on a few things, especially the graphics, and this is the version that follows after that. Now graphically this is pretty much identical to the PlayStation version. It follows that sort of style still, but they've changed quite a few things in the mechanics, in how they've made things a bit more lenient than they did in the original Famicom version. So I'm going to be going through this game and I'm going to be explaining, I'm going to explain how things work the same and how some things work differently. Obviously it doesn't like me lingering on the menu screen so much. There are also other versions of this game as well that have come out since then, such as there's a PSP version and I believe there's an iPhone version, and you know, it's what they do with the early Final Fantasy games. Like, how many versions of 4 are there now? Seriously. But I have a file of this game which is right at the start of the game. As you can see on the timer there, it says 5 minutes, and I've only taken 53 steps. I've got 400 gil. This is right at the start. Now the reason I decided to do it right at the start was, for one, I had to actually have a file late on the game, or I suppose I could take one from somewhere. But it shouldn't really matter, because with the early games especially, well, I say with the early games, but especially with 2 and quite a few RPGs, there's not really much you have to go through with the later, the later stages of the game, as in there's not really things that really stick out that really are game changers. So I am able to just show this basically from the start of the game. So I'm going to move my cursor off the screen and I'm going to load this file. And here we are in the first town of Final Fantasy II, Altair. Now, I have had a bit of story before this, but I just went a bit further and saved. That's one thing that's worth pointing out for this particular version, is that you can save at any time, which was certainly not in the original version. And I don't believe it was in the PS1 version either. So, what do we have in our towns here? We have an inn. Now, inns' prices are a bit strange in this game, because in this game, inns are priced based on how much you have to heal by, rather than depending on which inns heal what. Because some different inns in different games, you know, the further you go on in the game, generally they'll cost be more expensive, but here it's totally down to how much you need to heal. So as you can see, we've got our characters here. We've got Furion, Maria and Guy. These are our 3 main characters, kind of, although there is a 4th main character who you start with, called Leon, but you lose him straight away at the beginning of the game. I'm not actually spoiling anything by saying that, because it's right at the very start that you lose Leon. But the way that parties work in this game is that you'll always have these 3 characters. You'll always have Furion, Maria and Guy, and you'll have a 4th slot which will be taken up by extra party members that you'll meet along the way, and they'll come and go, but these 3 are permanent. And as you can see, we've got our general RPG menu that you'd expect to see, and you know, a very Final Fantasy standard. You've got items, magic, equipment, status, formation, and so on and so forth. Keywords is a new thing to Final Fantasy II, and they've not really gone back to it since. It's a rather strange thing. It's a story thing. we can go to the configurations and we can do some very basic things here, like change the window color, the message speed. The cursor I like set to memory. That means that the cursor is set to so that, say if you do an attack and it gets to that character's turn again, then the cursor will still be on that. And run mode. So say if run mode is off, you walk normally, but you can hold B to run. But if you turn it on, you'll just run automatically. Now, I would show a battle in this game to show how battles go, because it was Final Fantasy IV that introduced the ATB system originally, so that was before this time. But first I'm going to go around to show you the different shops. So we have our armor shops, where we can go here and we can look at our different equipment here. And it has all the information, such as who has it equipped and what will it make it? Will it improve their stats or will it lower them? Tells you how many you've got equipped, how many you've got in your stock, and of course you can sell. So there's that, and there's also a weapon shop, which is pretty self-explanatory because it's the same thing again. And we also have, and we've also got a bit of lag there, a bit annoying from the recording. So yeah, we can go into the weapon shop here and we can go in and we can see. Here's the different weapons, so as you can see, some of them go down, some of them go up. Basic stuff. And we can also go to the magic shop, which I believe is over here. Yep, there's a magic shop here. Now magic you get in tomes in this game, as in you get individual tomes and you use them. So as you can see here, we've got Fire, Thunder, Blizzard and Cure. And Fire, Thunder and Blizzard are of course the general elemental spells, and then there's Cure. And magic levels up strangely in this game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a Cure Tome, and I'm actually going to buy another Cure Tome, and I'm going to leave. Now, here we are on the world map. If we look at our characters, we can look at our items, which you start with just nothing. You can look at your magic, and our characters start with nothing. But as you can see, there's a few spaces here to put different magic in. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you got 16 different slots where each character can have up to 16 magic, and you can discard them. So if a character has a magic spell, you can choose discard to get rid of it. But that also means they'll lose all the levels from it as well. If we look at equipment, here we have each part of the body. So you have right hand, left hand, the head, the body and hands, and we can go here and it gives some information as to how it changes your stats, as you would normally expect. I'm not a fan of this lag, I tell you. But as we can see with the left hand here with Furion, if we remove the buckler here, it will actually increase his attack power. But what you can't see there is that shields help with your evasion. And what we can do is we can remove the bow there for Maria, and we can go over here and we can add the bow to Furion. Of course he'd lose his buckler in the first place that he had out there in the first place. So I'm just going to re-equip everyone. So broadsword on his right hand, buckler, and Maria, you have a bow. Now Maria started the bow because she's in the back row, and rows work slightly different in this game than they do in other Final Fantasy games. Because, well, this was actually the first game to introduce rows. One didn't have rows, it had kind of an order where it prioritised the enemy's different attacks. But this is where they actually have rows, and it works slightly differently, and I'll explain that when I get into a battle. Now, one thing to note with items, and one reason that this this version of the game differs from the earlier versions is that the earlier versions actually had very limited inventory space. You actually had one slot here per item. So say here, Cure Tome takes up 2. It stacks the 2 onto a single point in the menu here. In the previous versions, they would actually go into their own slots, and your inventory space would actually get smaller over time, because as you go, your item space would fill up with key items that you need to keep to progress the story, which is kind of interesting. People find it really irritating, which is probably one of the reasons why they changed it. After all, the newer versions are always trying to make things more lenient, it seems. But yeah, so you can pretty much hold 99 of every item in this version, like you would expect in normal Final Fantasy games. Also, if we go to equipment, in the original version, each character would equip 2 items as well, and the 2 items that they equip are the items that they can use in battle. So you've only got access to 2 items per character in battle, which is actually very limited, especially towards the end when you've got elixirs and you really want to heal up, but you can't because you've limited to so many item spaces. And it's the same for the item spaces for if you wanted to exchange equipment mid-battle. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go to my items. I'm going to scroll all the way back up to the top, and I'm going to use one of these Cure Tomes, and I'm going to use it on Furion here. Now he's learnt the Cure spell because I've used the Cure Tome on Furion. Or Furion, however you want to pronounce the name. I used to say Furion, but since watching HC Bailey's Let's Play, I've been saying Furion. He does have some rather strange pronunciations, but that's one of the ones I've kind of picked up and just gone with. So now if we look at our magic, you can see he has a level 1 cure here. Now, this bar here is the progress bar to how far it is towards levelling up. In the previous versions, it was shown with a number, like a percentage to how far it is to levelling up. And if we scroll through our other characters, they don't have any spells. I could give cure to another character, but I'm not going to. I'm going to have a look at our status here. Now, this is one of the main things that's really interesting about Final Fantasy II, is that your characters don't have levels, so to speak, but instead they have individual stats that level up on their own accord. So, what we have here is we have Furion. We have his HP, which is 30 out of 30, and his MP, which is 10 out of 10. Here we have all of his stats. So his attack power is 10, accuracy, the 1 is about how many numbers of it, the number of hits that he delivers, and 70 is the percentage of damage he does. Defense, evasion, similar kind of thing, and magic defense, similar thing again. And here we have proficiency for each individual weapon type. So as you can see, we have barehanded, daggers, swords, staves, axes, spears, bows and shields. And here we have the equipment. I can press A and go to these stats here, so his strength, stamina, spirit, agility, intelligence, magic, and here are his actual magic spells. So yes, the way that you actually level up these different spells is by actually using the thing that governs them. So for example, to build up strength you have to actually attack. Spirit and intelligence are actually for different types of magic, so spirit is white magic and intelligence I believe is black magic. The game doesn't actually inform you what colour magic things are in this game, which is quite strange. But what's also interesting is that each character is either left or right-handed. So as you can see here, Furion is right-handed. In fact, all these characters are right-handed. But Leon, the other character that you start with, for example, is left-handed. Now this does mean something, because when you actually equip the characters with things, whatever hand they're best with determines how good they are at using that thing. So as you can see, Furion has his broadsword in his right hand because he's right-handed. I could switch them, and that would mean he'd be better off using his shield with his right hand, but I put his broadsword in his right hand. What's actually interesting is that the original Nintendo version, I don't believe that version actually ever tells you whether characters are left or right-handed, so it's kind of up to you to figure out. It's very cryptic in that sense. So yeah, that's that. Now I'm going to get into a battle here. I'm actually just going to save this, and I'm going to get into a battle to show you a few things. Here we are, a battle. We were ambushed, so that means they attack first. Right? Now, this is like very team turn based, so all the enemies attack, all of your characters attack. Of course it can vary, like I can choose all my attacks and then they can mix up between, but the idea is that you choose all of your characters' moves at once, and then everyone has a turn. Okay? So, I'm going to use Furion to attack, but as you can see, I can't go any further than that particular enemy there, because of the range of Furion's weapon. I can't go any further than that. So I'm just going to choose him to attack that. Now Maria can still only attack those two, but remember she's in the back row. I'm going to attack that, and Guy, I was going to say Gus then, that was his name in the PlayStation version, which I should also point out that this game has it's gone through a lot of retranslations. Generally the canon version is the one of the latest retranslation. There's some characters I believe there's one character who's gone through like 4 different names, 4 different variations of his names. So you just have to generally go through the latest one, take that as the canon. So I'm going to use him to attack that. So everyone will have their attack. So Maria attacks, Guy attacks, and Furion missed. But Furion moves on to that one because the front one died. But as you can see, now that the front one has died, we've got free range of these. So I'm going to... Whoa! Come on, like, it doesn't have to be that bad. Just going to go around, and the enemies can escape. So they're doing their thing, and there is quite a bit of missing. Now, I'm going to show magic here. Now, Q is level 1. Now, magic always costs MP equal to its level. So, I'm going to select Q1, and I can choose a target. I can choose any of the enemies, I can choose any of my own characters. If I can press up all the way, or down all the way, or left all the way, or right all the way, to choose either all of my own characters or all of the enemies. Now, it splits as you do this, so if I was to queue, say, all of my team, it would actually split the curing, but I'm going to do it anyway, just for sure. So, Furion is there charging his cure spell, and these two are just going to attack. So the hero has casted cure level 1, just for the sake of it, and they all cure 10 and 22 HP there. Okay, now, we might get some stat growth here, let's see. We obtained gil from killing enemies, and we didn't get any stat growth from that particular battle there. Now, I'm going to go to Furion's magic here, and as you can see, Q1, the bar has gone up. That's because he's used Q1. So when that bar reaches the top, Q will level up to Q2. We can look at our status here, and as you can see, Furion is on his way to leveling up his sword and shield there, Maria for bow, and Guy axes. You can, if you wanted to, go and buy, say, 2 swords and give a character 2 swords, and they can fight with both hands. And here we have some more enemies. I'm going to just attack these. Now these can poison, I believe, but Guy is very strong with his attack there. Now what that means is that whenever the turns happen, in between turns as you can see there, he gets damage for a percentage of his HP, but it's so low at this point that it's just 0. I'm going to attack again. So, hoping that I grow some stats here just to show you how stats do grow. Okay, 31 gil. Okay, Furion's sword level increased. His shield level increased. Maria's bow. Okay, so all the weapon levels are increasing. Guy's stamina increased. Which is very nice. And see, that is because of the actions that you take during battle. So as you can see, his stamina is up there. And Furion's is still on 10. I'm going back and forth between pronunciations, I understand. Maria's is still pretty low, but her agility is high, and her intelligence is higher than the rest. So your characters do start off with different stats, and even though everyone is pretty evenly matched in how you can develop them, generally you want to develop them in particular ways so that they have their own unique traits, and that they have their own thing that they're particularly good at. The starting stats are just a way to like kind of nudge you in the right direction. So, if I go to Furion here and I use Cure, I can use it on Guy here, and look, the cure bar will go up as it's used. Yep. Of course, the bad thing about that is that because I'm using the spell outside of a battle, it's not counting the MP loss during the battle, so my MP isn't growing as a result of that. Because MP grows up as you lose MP in a battle. Same goes for HP. You can lose HP in a battle, and as long as you don't recover that HP, or if you recover only a small amount of that HP, then yeah, your HP will grow up as well. Now there is a trick to this game, and it's one of the glitches, kind of, although it's not necessarily a glitch, but it's kind of a way you can, in a way, abuse this game. I'm going to get Furion to attack Guy. I'm just going to attack as normal, and Guy, you can attack. So as you can see, that's a lot of damage done to Guy there from Furion. And I'm just going to get everyone to attack this goblin now. Right. So, do we get any stats from this? Guy's HP increased, while his HP dropped. Now, as you can see, his HP is now 56. It was 40, but going to the status, because his stamina is 16, it's gone up by 16. So there's a lot of like intricate workings between the individual stats and everything. Okay. Now I'm just going to explain how rows work. Now you can push characters into the front or back row, but you always have to have at least one character in the front row. Now this is because usually in Final Fantasy games the way it would work is that the front row has more strength, but the back row has more defense. So the back row is there for casting magic spells, and the front row is there for doing physical attacks and such. But it works differently in this game. In this game, each row kind of works as like a layer. So, for example, the front row is the first layer, and the back row is the second layer. And the way that it works is that physical attack-wise, is that your opponent has to work their way through the first layer before they can start attacking the second layer. So, for example, they would have to wipe out Furion and Guy in order to really be able to hit Maria with physical attacks. But it works the same way with the enemies as well, in that Maria can't really do something unless she's in the front row, and she's got a bow, which means that she can attack from the back row, but let's try putting her in the front row just now. And I'm going to try and demonstrate two things in this battle. This next battle coming up. First of all, I'm just going to do a normal attack. Let's see, can Furion? Ah, yes. Oh well, there's not enough to really demonstrate the raw difference in this battle anyway, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an item. Now, I'm going to use the Cure Tome as an item. That means I'm not going to give it to someone to teach them the spell, I'm just going to cast it. And Guy, you can just attack as usually would. Okay, so they're fighting. So what does using the item do? Well, we'll see. It casts Cure level 8 on your whole team. So yes, the tomes can be used for two main things. There's the main reason why you'd want to use it, which is to actually pass it onto your character, to give it to them so that they can learn the spell and that they can use the spell. And that way they can level up and grow with the spell. The other is, as you've just seen, to actually use it up as an item, and it casts the level 8 version, but of course that consumes the item. So it's more of a desperate situation that you'd want to do something like that. I'm just going to put Maria back into the back row here. And how are we doing? Right, we're doing fine. I'm just going to create a save file here. And I'm going to get into another battle here, and I'm going to demonstrate a glitch that they've never fixed, they've not fixed, and I don't know if they've fixed it in the versions after this, or if they ever plan to fix it, or whether they just think it's part of the game. But they've kept it in this version. And that is that you can activate a command before activating all of your character's commands in order to be able to make the game think that you've done a particular thing. So, for example, I can go, okay, Furion, cure, yourself, cancel. Cure, yourself, cancel. Cure, yourself, cancel. Cure, yourself, cancel. Now the game will register this as you having used the spell each and every one of those times. Now even still, you can't do this until it hits level 16 in one battle. You'd have to keep going back and doing it in several other battles over time. So yeah, Cure is bound to level up at the end of this battle. So, I will just complete this battle by attacking. As you can see, Furion's dealing 2 hits there. And Guy is there delivering 2 hits. Of course, the downside, the thing about that particular trick is that you can't do it on your last character in your party member, who, for the most part, is going to be a character who isn't going to stick around forever. But it didn't seem to work. I do believe they fixed it. Oh, I must have been mistaken. Oh well. That's very good to know. Although maybe it just hasn't been completely fixed with all the versions, because I do know that it works in the PSP version, because I've done it in the PSP version. I've done some sort of variation in the PSP version. Although now I'm starting to doubt myself. Anyway, I'm supposed to be the guru here. I'm supposed to tell you what's going on. I can't be making mistakes. What's wrong with me? But it's okay. It's nothing major. But hey, at least you know that in some versions that can happen. But I'm going to go to the inn now. I'm going to see how much this costs. It will cost 2 gil, which is nothing. But sometimes a bit of advice, if you actually cure beforehand, this may or may not affect, see, it affects the price there, because I cured. And therefore, whilst my HP went up total, my MP total went down. so it can affect things. Now, there is a backfire to that glitch, and that is this. Let's say you keep using Cure and you get all the way up to level 16. Eventually, if you do this, you will level up Cure really high, but you won't actually gain the MP needed to cast it, so you will actually kind of outdo yourself in that regards. So yeah, there is a downside to doing that. But what I'm actually going to do right now is I'm actually going to go over to the magic shop here. I'm going to buy some more magic. So I've got 413 gil. I'm going to buy... what should I buy? I'll buy one fire tome. And I won't give Guy anything, I'll just use that fire tome on Maria there. So now, for magic, Cure is level 1, fire is level 1. Of course, fire hasn't been used yet, so it doesn't go up at all. Cure has been used, so that's why it's got the bar there. And remember, MP costs based on exactly what level it is. So even like the really powerful spells cost the same amount of MP. But also to keep in mind is that the more powerful spells that you'll get later in the game have the downside that you wouldn't have leveled them up. Now there isn't enough space in each inventory for every character to hold every single individual magic spell, so you're going to have to balance them between. So one character will be able to, say, carry one spell, but maybe if it says something like Cure and you really want all the characters to have Cure, you can do that. You can have all the characters with the same spells, but there isn't enough slots in one character to carry all the spells, similar to Final Fantasy VIII in that regards. So I believe that's the basics of Battle Gone Down. So I'm just going to talk about some of the different variations of things that make this game in particular unique, different particular systems and different means of exploration. One thing that's very unique to this version, well not this version of the game, but this game in general, is that it has a keyword system, which is this here, keywords. As you can see, I have none. And so it's kind of a way of trying to... Oh, that wasn't good. It's a way of trying to make you think your way through the story. So, for example, the first keyword that you get is from Hilda here. Right? She tells you the password. The password is Wild Rose, remember it well. So, you can ask them something based on the keywords that you've learned. You can learn a keyword, or you can use items. I'm going to learn that Wild Rose, see how it's in red? So I can learn that. So now I've learned that. So now that I've learned that, and it's in my inventory of words that I've learned, I can ask Wild Rose. And because she understands it, I can talk to her, and she'll know what I mean. And she'll just give us some information here. So yes. So yeah, they're talking about how Leon is missing and how he's possibly being held captive in Finn, and Finn is the hometown of these characters. Now it says Finn is a dangerous place now because it's been taken over by the Empire. And she says, speak to Minwu here. So this is Minwoo here, and now he is, and again this isn't spoiling because it's right near the start of the game. He does join you, and he becomes your fourth. He fills up your fourth character slot for a while. So see, I can ask him about the Wild Rose. You've wasted no time using the password. That's true. And he's basically telling you that you can go to the sanctuary to revive your characters. Which I probably should have said, but oh well, now you know. See, I can... Let's see, I'll go out here. And I'll talk to this random stranger. And because it's just a random stranger, it doesn't actually give me any options here. But if we go to this... Hey, stop running away. Here we have Paul, who isn't one of the characters you control, but he takes part in the story, and he's the greatest thief in the world. So, we can ask him about the Wild Rose. He says, I never steal from rebels. You can count on that. My home is in Fin 2. So yes, and who is this we have here? Here we have Gordon. Do you know what the Wild Rose is? Yes, he understands what the Wild Rose is. So there's quite a lot of... the characters kind of go all over the place in this game because they're part of the story but they don't really take part yet. And oh yeah, here's the item shop, which I suppose I should have shown. But I've explained how items work already, and I don't know why there's 3 different things for different stalls. I imagine it's because in the original version you would have needed, there wouldn't have been enough space in like the menus. There is no level for, there is no level that you can get for item usage. It is its own thing. See how you can buy elixirs in the first town and they're mega expensive. I'm just going to go into a battle to show that fire level 1 effect. Okay, don't need to give us a huge just attack and magic. Fire. Attack all of those. But they're escaping. Okay, fire level 1. Again, remember you can multi-target, and she killed both of them with that. Got 8 gil, nothing went up. And as you can see, her fire spell went up by 1. The max level for magic is 16, which is much higher than it has ever been in any other Final Fantasy game. The max you'll ever find in any other is 4, and that's usually an exception. The highest is usually 3. But this is an odd game. So, yes. I'm just going to end this by talking about a few of the specific things to do with this particular game. That generally differs from other games in the series. And it doesn't take as long to describe this particular Final Fantasy game because it's an early game in the series, so really they were just starting things, and so really things are simple. It doesn't get, I mean, the battle mechanics are odd, but the general whole grand scheme of things, it doesn't get much simpler than this. I mean, the menus don't really go far deep, and yeah, so yeah, that would be why. But few things that do differ about this game. 1. The world is very open in this game. You can go to pretty much any place that you would want to at any point in the game. But this also leads into another quirk about this game, is that there are specific borders where the enemy level will ramp up really high, but you'll not see it coming. So you want to be very careful. But the point is that you can grind and make it to anywhere. So where I am now, this is the very start of the game. You can technically at this point grind enough, not progress the story anymore, and travel to almost everywhere in the world, which is quite amazing when you think about it. But of course the game doesn't advise you to do that, because there are borders in which enemies really do grow stronger. But you do gain access to more transport as the game goes on. So, for example, when you do get an airship, you don't actually use the airship yourself to start with. Instead, you have to pay to get transported between set locations. I think this is really good in hammering home the point that this is a big world, and it is a really good, like, exploratory world, if exploratory isn't actually a word, but it is actually like a big world, and there are actually different places you can go that are dangerous, and there are ways to get around things that require story progress. But you don't need story progress in order to be able to get to these places. It's very strange in that way. You can also see the airships flying around as well, which is a nice little touch. What else was there to say? One thing that should be mentioned is that dungeons in this game are brutal. There are several maze-like dungeons in this game, and many of them have rooms with nothing in but a series of random battles. And sometimes you're just going to have to take it. Like, there's no way for you to be able to... There's not really going to be any way for you to know which way to go unless you guess. And some ways are going to lead you to random battles. It's just the ordeal of trying to get through the dungeons. So, yeah, also quite interesting about this game is that, and I will probably bring up a map on the screen here, it's the only Final Fantasy game to my recollection where there is a continent that wraps around the world. That's how you're pretty much able to go to anywhere without transportation, only like grinding. You can go like anywhere, like it all wraps around, and you can basically walk the span of the earth, or whatever the planet's called in this game. You can walk the span of the planet and make it back again. It makes maps look really strange in how they kind of... You've got a continent that goes off the edge and like appears at the other edge. It's just a little quirk about the game. Other than that though, other than the stuff that I've said, it is pretty much a standard old school RPG. You will make story progress, and I've brought up how it's different with the whole password system and such, but it is just continuing on with the story, going through dungeons. The system itself doesn't expand beyond what I already explained, because there aren't really things to expand upon, and any expansion that does happen is from finding new tomes and new areas that have new spells. But it's not like, say, it's not 7 where you find brand new materia combinations that come up with crazy things. It's not 8 where you've got the GF's abilities and you can get all sorts of weird refine abilities and all sorts of different crazy new things going on. But it's from the 80s, so, and there's the second game in the Final Fantasy series. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it made sense, pointing out the quirks of this rather particular old Final Fantasy game. And don't forget, this is the Game Boy Advance version that I'm showing here. Anyway, I can't think of anything else to say, so I'll thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.